All right, Trends Change Renaissance guy here. Just heading into the gym this morning to get my first session of training in. I've just literally moved over to a new area, so things are kind of settling down, getting myself back into a routine. Things are going well. I'm a lot behind on what I want to be, but hey, such is life. You have things in life and things happen, and things can go backwards, but the important thing is to get back on, move forwards, and get things done. But today isn't about training. Today is about so excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cough, but hey, it's all good. But here's the deal. Today is politically charged somewhat, especially with the climate that we have in the UK, the government we have in the UK, and I am going to refer to what we call the Labour Party in the UK, who is in power at the moment, and Keir Starmer, and I am going to essentially say they are the Fourth Reich. Keir Starmer is as close to Hitler as I've ever seen anybody become. So I'm gonna kind of do this video because, quite honestly, it needs to be said. Now, if you look back in history, a lot of the problems that we have had in history come from extremism. And there's been a lot of extremism on both sides. But historically, a lot of the problems come from the left extremism rather than the right. Although they tend to try and limit the far right extremism, and they try to kind of crush down anything that's right wing. Hitler was a socialist. He was far removed from right wing. He was far left. The assassination on Abraham Lincoln, on Kennedy, both were left wing. There are many other incidents. The Civil War was fought against left wing sentiments, which actually is slavery. People don't think that the left wing has anything to do with slavery. It does. Socialism, communism, all that sort of thing. Part of their mandate is slavery. Whether you're white, black, whatever it is, slavery. All right? Let's get that very clear. Now, I'm not going to say all left-wing people. Kennedy himself was, whilst he had his faults, was a great president. Believed in hard work, discipline, a healthy nation, a lot of things that he actually had right. He spoke against Vietnam. There's a lot of things he did that were good. In fact, a lot of people will say he is the last great Democrat president. But let's forget about America and move to England, and the same problem. Socialism has always been the decay of taking things away from the working people. All right? It's socialism that is solely responsible for the moral decay of the country. Not only that, but the problem with the left wing is while the right has been limited, the left wing has no limitations. They can do whatever they want. They can go extreme far left as much as they want, and there is no restriction. Right-wing sentiments has always been about hard work, about freedom of speech, about being able to go out, do the things he needs to do to support a family with good, basic moral foundations. And it seems that every time that those are attacked, it comes from the left wing. Now, I will say in this country, we don't really have that great conservative values. In fact, the last Conservative government was so lacking in morals. They were practically left-wing themselves, let's be honest with you. They weren't true Conservatives. But conservatism, whilst conservatives they don't like change much, what they do exemplify is working on good basic moral foundations to build whatever it is that needs to be built. Now at the moment we're seeing a decay even further because we have a Prime Minister, like I said, who is acting so very similar to the establishment of the Nazi Party. They are going into schools to teach school children essentially their policies. They're saying, oh, we're going to teach kids of 5 years old and upwards how to spot certain behaviours, radical behaviours, etc., how to recognise and report them. Pretty much sounds like communist Russia, right? Lenin and the other Russian revolutionaries did exactly the same, targeted the young. We have a police force that doesn't have one law, alright? It has two-tier policing to target anything that doesn't agree with the standards or the principles that the left-wing government might hold. In other words, the police are now a part of a force of tyranny. They're part of the force of dictatorship, and essentially have become a brute squad to anybody who doesn't have the same sentiments as anybody else. We're living in a dangerous time where history has been ignored. And the reason for that is we've allowed it. Well, the nation as a whole have allowed it. They have allowed the principles that we once had to be destroyed. And we are living in a time where we're going to see more of it. Unfortunately, the person who should have been Prime Minister, who received way over more votes than any other party had, wasn't able to get into government because even though he had the most votes, he didn't have the seats that require him to be in the government. We have a corrupt system that is designed by people to keep them in power, and they will do whatever they can to stay in power. They don't care about the everyday person. They care about what will keep them in power. Let me make that abundantly clear. We do not have a democracy anymore. The will of the majority does not exist in England. We've opened our doors to too many contradicting belief systems, too many contradictive traditions, rather than saying, if you come into the country, you integrate with the community. They dictate this. These people dictate we should have this, this, and this. In Bradford alone, there are places where certain ethnic minorities have decided to put up signs saying, It's our streets, not anybody else's streets to walk down. And the police do nothing. But if you have a predominantly white street saying exactly the same thing, the police say you can't do this, you can't do that, etc., etc., and ignore the exact same rule breaking from other sides. We live in pretty much, we are entering a Nazi-like state. And that the reason why we're having all these riots is because of exactly that. The lack of actual leadership, the lack of actual proper law enforcement, the control of thought, of free will, everything like that is systematically being destroyed. And it started when people started saying, oh yes, we'll comply to having our weapons taken away from us, our right to bear arms taken away from us, etc., etc. And slowly but surely, Britain became a governed dictatorship state. And that is what it is. And we can't do anything else about it because we don't have the tools to do that. This is a warning to America as well, that this will happen to America if the present state of affairs continues with the Democrat Party. You need to open your eyes. All this bullshit about woke, the woke generation, all this, it's a load of crap, it's a load of rubbish. And they overlook what actually is happening, and they are lulled into a state of blindness never before thought of, rather than thinking what is best for the country. So we're in a state of this, and my this video now, even though I am making a viewpoint, it could be viewed as I could be stirring up hate rather than actually saying what actually is. We need to learn from history. We need to learn the signs of freedom being taken away. We need to learn. I don't agree with the writing. I can see why it is happening. Don't agree with it. I don't agree with public property destruction. I don't agree with it at all. But what I will say is I can understand why it's happening, and I can understand the outrage and the anger. But the Prime Minister has actually said that anybody even saying they understand, can be prosecuted and put in jail for promoting hatred. It isn't promoting hatred. What I'm saying now, although the government basically said that things like this could be seen as, it's not. It's, it's not supporting these rights, but it's saying I understand why, and I understand how, and I can understand the sentiments. The only way that we can actually break out of this, and the only way is, unfortunately, civil war. The other systemic problem that we have is that all leaders come from the same stock. Left, right, it doesn't matter. They come from the same stock. They come from the same schooling. They come from the same backgrounds, from the same sort of families. They know each other. They know who they are. And they're voted in because they are in that social elite. If you ever wondered why so many independents fail and don't get anything, it's because they are not from that social elite. Believe it when I say the only way to change things now is civil war. And that is really, historically, looking at things, that is the only way actual change occurs. Look at Cromwell. Look at the American War of Independence. Look at the American Civil War. All those brought change and brought a change to the country. And that is historically looking at it. Now, if we don't act, and believe me, we are entering, as I said, into a Fourth Reich with Adolf Keir Starmer Hitler at the head of it. If we don't act now, this man is going to poison our country more. And we need to stand against him legally. We need to sign petitions for him to be removed. We need to sign petitions saying that we need to have our law, British law in charge, British rule in charge, and British morality and standards in charge. We need to have this done. We need to be signing petitions, we need to be doing all these things. But you know, the sad thing is because the majority, when they all get together, individuals think, but mobs, they don't. They buy into the system because they can't be bothered to think. And that's the unfortunate truth. We actually, I'm going to finish with this. There's two differences between Nazi Germany and what will be Nazi UK. The German people didn't see what was happening until too late. We've had so many historical examples of what will happen when this sort of thing happens in government. We can be blamed for allowing it to happen if we don't learn from history. I would suggest that if you do have any questions, or if you do think, oh well, things aren't that bad, take a look at your history books, because all these socialist establishments, communistic establishments, all happened slowly and little by little, and before people knew it, there were gulags, there were restrictions, everything, and it all happened slowly but surely. Go back and look at your history and then compare it today with what's happening. As I said, with kids being targeted, with young people being targeted, with the two-tier policing, everything else is all setting up for a socialistic regime that will be the nastiest tyrannical establishment we've seen to date, and I can promise you that will be worse than anything else we've ever seen. I promise you that. You know, I never thought I would live to see the day where this was happening in England. Never thought I would see the day. And yes, quite frankly, it does scare me. But if we have to stand up to it, that's what courage is, standing up against something that will destroy the lives of people. Now, some people may say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're this, you're that, the other. Hey, if you want to think that, but go back, do your history. Again, do your history, do your work, really look at things and look at what's happening today and compare it and draw your own conclusions. It's up to you. But I'm going to leave you with that.